The story begins deep in the jungles of Indonesia, where a group of pirates celebrate after a successful raid. Laughter fills the air, bottles clink, and the men brag about their spoils, until one of them wanders off into the forest to relieve himself. But as he disappears between the trees, the jungle grows eerily quiet. He stumbles upon what looks like the mouth of a cave, half hidden behind tangled vines. Curiosity gets the better of him. He steps inside, shining his flashlight into the darkness. The ground suddenly gives way beneath him, and he plunges screaming into a pit. The sound echoes once, then silence. Only the empty jungle remains. Soon after, a helicopter touches down nearby, kicking up dust and leaves. Out steps Warren Price, the son of a wealthy tycoon, a man obsessed with uncovering his father's legacy and the legend of Yamashita's gold. Beside him is his girlfriend, Su Ling, and a Japanese scientist named Ri. Their mission: to explore a forgotten World War II bunker said to hold the Japanese commander's treasure. But Price isn't traveling alone. Escorting him is Captain Tino Prawa, a disciplined mercenary haunted by the failure of his last mission. His team includes the hard-edged Sergeant Papa Snake, the loyal Joko, and a wounded former engineer turned soldier, Stanley. The group begins their trek into the dense jungle, following maps and old war records that led them here. The heat is suffocating, the air thick with insects. Stanley looks uneasy. He doesn't like walking into old military ruins without knowing what they're for. He asks the captain what exactly they're looking for, but Prawa admits he doesn't know. So Stanley turns to Ri, hoping she'll be more honest. She tells him she joined this mission for her own reasons, not for treasure, but to uncover what the Japanese army truly did during the war. Her voice softens. "I want to understand how people could do those things." Stanley nods quietly. "That's easy," he says. "You break a soldier down, rebuild him, until there's nothing left but orders." As night falls, they set up camp near a rusted Japanese machine gun nest. The atmosphere is tense. Price tries to lighten the mood, but Prawa's men are restless. One jokes around with a skull he's found, tossing it like a ball. But the laughter fades fast when a gunshot suddenly cracks through the air. Bullets rip through the trees. The pirates are back. The group scrambles for cover as the forest erupts in chaos. Prawa orders everyone toward the mine entrance, a dark, narrow opening carved into the mountain. They sprint inside just as a grenade explodes behind them. The blast seals the entrance in a thunderous collapse, trapping them underground. When the dust settles, the group is shaken but alive. Arrow, one of Prawa's men, is badly injured, pinned under debris. They drag him free, but the entrance is completely blocked. Stanley studies the rock formation, his voice grim. "We're not getting out this way." Price tries to stay calm, but panic spreads. The others turn on him, demanding to know what they're really doing here. Finally, Price admits the truth. He's searching for Yamashita's gold, the fabled treasure of the Japanese commander who vanished near the end of the war. But Stanley's furious. "You brought us here for gold?" he snaps. "You risked our lives for a legend?" Price insists it's real. His father's company decoded a message years ago, and this mine is where the trail ends. The captain cuts them off. "Arguing won't dig us out. We move deeper. Maybe there's another exit." So they head down into the mine, flashlights piercing the darkness. The tunnels stretch endlessly ahead, lined with old wooden beams and rusting pipes. Then, without warning, a flicker of electricity races through the walls. The lights come on. A Japanese war song blares through ancient speakers, echoing through the tunnels. A patriotic march from another century. Everyone freezes. The mine should have been abandoned for decades. Price whispers, "Maybe it's just a power surge." But Stanley shakes his head. "No, someone's down here." They press on, unnerved. Inside one chamber, they find shelves of chemicals, medical bottles, and photographs of disfigured men. Another room is filled with old hazmat suits and strange devices. Ri studies the writing on the wall, Japanese military code. She looks pale. "This wasn't a bunker," she says quietly. "It was a research lab, Unit 731. Stanley stares at her. "You mean the ones who experimented on prisoners?" She nods. "Biological weapons, chemical gas, human testing." The realization sinks in. The dead mine isn't dead at all. It's a tomb of human experimentation. But before they can react, something moves in the shadows behind them. Sergeant Snake catches a glimpse. A figure in a gas mask, standing silently at the far end of the corridor. He blinks, and it's gone. The team continues deeper, tension building with every step. They reach an old barracks room, where they decide to rest and treat Arrow's wounds. The place smells of mold and blood. While Prawa and Snake go to search for another exit, the others stay behind. Arrow lies motionless, breathing shallowly. Then, a faint scratching sound comes from beneath the floor. He sits up, looking around. The scratching turns to clawing. The ground splits open, and a pair of pale, inhuman hands shoot out, grabbing his legs and yanking him down into the dirt. Arrow's scream echoes through the tunnels. Stanley and Ree rush over, shining their flashlights into the hole, just in time to see something moving in the darkness. A distorted face, eyes hollow, skin gray and twisted. It looks almost human, but not quite. Stanley leaps into the hole without hesitation. Ree follows. They find Arrow's body only a few feet below, throat slashed, eyes staring blankly into the void. Ree trembles, covering her mouth. What did this? Before Stanley can answer, a shadow moves behind them. Something heavy slams into the back of his head, and the world goes black. When he wakes, he's tied up in a dimly lit chamber. Standing over him is a man in a tattered Japanese uniform, wearing a cracked gas mask. The man speaks in Japanese, his tone stern and commanding. Ree translates softly. He says, "We're prisoners of the Imperial Army." Stanley stares, confused. The war ended 70 years ago, but the soldier doesn't believe it. He raises a small sword, shouting orders only he can understand. So Stanley lunges forward, knocking the mask off. The sight beneath is horrifying. A face leathery and gray, veins bulging, eyes clouded like a corpse that never rotted. Ree panics, showing the man footage from her tablet. Japan's surrender in 1945. The soldier trembles, then collapses to his knees, whispering something over and over. Tadaki was right. Meanwhile, back in the main corridor, Price and Prawa's team find another chamber. This one filled with cages, each containing bones, remnants of human experiments. On one table, a skeleton still bears the mark of a gold injection through the veins. Price picks up a syringe, shimmering faintly in the flashlight beam. He realizes the horrifying truth. The gold isn't treasure. It was fused into a chemical, a formula meant to create soldiers who could never die. But before he can speak, the sound of steel rattles through the air. From the shadows, armored figures begin to rise. Japanese Imperial Guards. And then, one of the ancient soldiers moved. Its head turned slowly, the faint glow of lifeless eyes shining through the helmet. Another followed, then another, until the entire wall of armored men began to rise. Captain Prawa froze, staring in disbelief. These weren't statues. Prawa and Snake opened fire, but the bullets bounced off the armor like pebbles. So they fell back, retreating through the tunnels as the unstoppable army marched forward. Snake stumbled, clutching his side. A blade cut through the air and struck him. He collapsed, gasping. Prawa turned back to help, but Snake was gone before he could reach him. So Prawa ran. They forced open a vent and crawled inside, dragging Price behind. The metal groaned as they slid through, dirt and smoke filling their lungs. When they finally dropped out, they landed in a cavern littered with bones. Joko's body was still there, twisted, broken, and forgotten. But before anyone could speak, a creature lunged from the shadows. It tackled Price to the ground, snarling. Another one followed, dragging Su-Ling away. Prawa grabbed a broken bone from the floor and drove it into the creature's neck until it stopped moving. Su-Ling stabbed hers through the eye with a knife. They caught their breath, but only for a moment. From the darkness came the metallic clank of armor again. So they ran. In a storage room ahead, they found Stanley and Ree. Relief flooded them for just a second before panic took over again. Prawa told them the truth. Everyone else was dead. There was no backup, no rescue. But Su-Ling wasn't listening. Her eyes were on Price, who lay barely conscious. Without warning, she pulled out the syringe of golden liquid they'd found earlier. Before anyone could stop her, she plunged it into his chest. Price's body jolted, his eyes open, glowing faintly gold. For a heartbeat, everyone thought he was saved, but then his expression changed. He grabbed Su-Ling by the throat. He threw Su-Ling aside like a rag doll and turned toward them, breathing heavily, eyes blank with rage. So Prawa did the only thing he could. He led the others through another corridor. Move! Pravayid. They followed the sound of running water and found a drained tunnel, narrow, flooded, and cold. As they climbed in, the floor trembled. The soldiers were closing in. Ree went first, followed by Stanley. Prawa stayed behind, blocking the passage. "Go," he shouted. Ree begged him to follow, but he shook his head. "I'll hold them off." And he did. The first armored soldier burst through the door, sword raised. Prawa fired until his rifle clicked empty. Then he picked up a broken rod and charged. The sound of metal on metal echoed through the halls until it faded completely. Down in the tunnels, Ree and Stanley kept crawling. The water rose to their chests. Every sound echoed. Every breath felt too loud. Behind them, something moved. Stanley turned just in time to see one of the soldiers crawling through the drain. "Go," he shouted. He fired until his gun jammed, then shoved Ree forward. She didn't look back. When she finally reached the end of the tunnel, she pushed open a metal grate and fell into a lake under the moonlight. She gasped, coughing water, looking around for Stanley. But there was no answer, only ripples across the surface. Then, a hand broke through the water. An armored hand. Ree stumbled back, frozen in fear. The soldier rose, dripping wet, its mask glinting in the moonlight. She grabbed a branch from the shore and swung, but it caught the stick and snapped it like paper. Another soldier emerged, then another. The entire lake began to move. Ree screamed and tried to run, but one of them caught her by the throat. The scream faded to black. The war beneath the cave never ended.